We're all children in disguise, forced to live adult lives. But in reality, there are no grown-ups on earth. Why? Because somewhere deep inside, every single person is a child trying to find better ways to assert themselves in this society that we all share. Somewhere deep inside each person is a child still trying to find answers, trying to figure out how to be that person that they're expected to be. Because that's really what it comes down to, right? Expectations. You know, when you're a small child, it seems like everything you do is so wonderful, right? You take your first step, everybody's so excited. You say your first words, your first word, and everybody's cheering for you, right? You figure out how to use the spoon and take your first bites, and it's like a celebration at home. But then all of a sudden, the older you get, and we're talking a matter of weeks or months, you start to have expectations imposed on you, right? It's like, oh yeah, the neighbor's kid is already walking. Why aren't you walking? Or, you know, that kid in preschool already knows how to count to 100, and you can barely count to 12. All of a sudden, the child start to feel inadequate. The child starts to feel like he or she's just not quite there yet. Not good enough, not smart enough, not fast enough, not proficient enough in whatever it is that they are being judged for. As years go by, the expectations start to pile up. And even as a child, which when you look at it now, it's like, well, it's not a whole lot of, much to worry about. But for a child, that's their whole world. And if they feel like simply because they cannot perform this task or do as the other kids are doing, somehow they're disappointing their community. They're disappointing their parents. So you live with this constant feeling of just not quite there, just not quite enough, right? Now, as we grow up, we tell ourselves, if I can just make my way through this, whatever situation is, then I can go and write my own story, right? I can go and make myself happy, but it doesn't quite work that way. At each stage in your life, there it is. More expectations, more things to make you feel like you're just not quite there yet. You're just not enough. You're not smart enough. You're not good looking enough. You're not witty enough. You're not hardworking enough. And we just go through life chasing these expectations, right? So at some point, it's like, yeah, go and get the best education you can. Go and find someone to marry so that you can look the part or act the part, Go and educate yourself. Go and find yourself the best possible career. Once you do, be the best in your field. The expectations never end. So basically, the child in you is like, yeah, if I just get to that point, I'll feel better about myself. If I just get over that one hill, finally the world will look at me like I did right and I did good, and I'm finally living up to the expectations. But then every single step that you take, it's like someone is kicking the ball a little further and forcing you to chase after it. Worse, when we become grown-ups, we start to set these expectations on ourselves because we're so addicted to that mindset. We don't know any other way to validate ourselves. So we set goals, we give ourselves expectations. I need to live in this neighborhood. If my kids don't go to this private school, then I must be a loser. If I don't buy a house by this age, then that means I'm not doing quite well enough in life. If I don't get married by this age, that means something is wrong with me. I'm not lovable enough. If I don't have children, that means that I'm not capable of having or raising children. We start to do this to ourselves. We become the architect of our own demise. Even though we live now adult lives, acting like grown-ups, we are still these children trying to prove to the world that we're enough, that we're capable of meeting these expectations. The problem is not being enough, or feeling like no matter what you do is just not quite enough, is a mindset that is really, really difficult to get rid of. So no matter what life gives us, we're stuck in this dimension where whatever we do is just not quite enough. You cannot quite bring yourself to being happy with who you are. And not only that, you cannot quite bring yourself to be authentic, because you already conditioned to only judge yourself or your sense of worth through the expectations that you either meeting or not meeting, right? So that means that we have a society of broken children desperately wanting or needing to be acknowledged for meeting expectations. The sense of complete dissatisfaction with yourself becomes some kind of cancer. It's like something that's eating you from the inside. Because no matter what the outside world gives you, the disease lives within you, right? So on top of that, we add trauma. Trauma, these emotional disturbances, these emotional wounds that somehow, due to some event or somebody doing something to you, or being subject to some very challenging situations for an extended period of time, trauma now alters our sense of balance, our sense of safety, our sense of belonging, right? So not only do you get to run after these expectations, now you're wounded and you're running scared of the next bad thing that's going to happen to you, right? Or the next scary things that's going to come after you. It makes for a very difficult life, and it's hard to find happiness, a sense of fulfillment. It literally becomes like running on a treadmill with the wolf chasing after you, right? After a while, you feel exhausted and scared at the same time, but you cannot stop. So that's the problem we have now as a society, where we're running after these expectations, but deep inside, we are these broken and scared children, still looking for answers, still looking for someone to say, good job, you're doing great, you matter, you're valued, you're appreciated, you're enough. But it doesn't quite happen like that, because as an adult, we don't even believe we deserve any of that. We're already conditioned to just accept that life is hard, and we still have a long list of expectations to meet, and we're behind, and we should just keep pushing forward. And whatever you don't have yet, run harder so you can get it. But in reality, the harder you run, the carrot is dangling in front of you and it's further and further away, right? It's time that we reverse our way of thinking. It's time that we accept the fact that we're all just broken children, looking to find our way home, looking for that sense of safety that, you know what, we may not be perfect, but this is where we are. This is where we belong. It's time to heal the inner child. No matter what your financial situation is, your gender, your career, whatever it is that is chasing you or you're chasing, everyone wants a sense of satisfaction in life, a sense of happiness, acceptance, and a sense of fulfillment. And the only way for a grown-up, an adult, to feel that sense of fulfillment, living a fulfilling life, having that inner peace, is to reconnect with the authenticity of that inner child. And I believe we've lost it in a lot of ways. And it's time for us to find our way back home, back to the source, back to what we were from the beginning, because that inner child of yours has the power to create the life that you're meant to live, the life that is supposed to make you feel fulfilled, the life that's supposed to give you that inner peace to know that I'm living the life that I'm supposed to be living, not someone else's life, not the life that I'm expected to live, but the life that I'm meant to live. And when you find a way to live the life that you're meant to live, you find that sense of fulfillment. You live a happier life. Can't promise anyone happiness for the rest of their lives, but you live a happier life. And while you're at it, it's very important to heal that inner child, because that inner child is hurt. And that inner child is scared. So that inner child went into hiding because life became too overwhelming. And that's why a lot of people have these mental blocks where it's almost like no matter what I do, I'll never be as good as Billy at whatever it is that Billy does. No matter what I do, I'll never be as interesting or pretty or attractive as Becky, whatever Becky does or whoever Becky is. The inner child went into hiding and created mental blocks, limiting beliefs. I'll never be good enough. I'll never be able to do these things because I'm just not the person that does it. It's the other kid that does it, right? So we literally need to go back and free that inner child. Allow that inner child to blossom and accept him or herself. And allow that inner child to show what that original design was supposed to be in the first place, the person that you were meant to be. And that's the whole point of this exercise with the proxy method, is to go back and get a sense of how do we free that inner part of you so that you can shine as who you are today. Not live in the shadows of past trauma, not live in the shadows of the pain, the hidden pain of childhood. Sometimes hidden, sometimes not so hidden. It's kind of like a butterfly that's stuck in this cocoon, and you want to go and set it free so you can see its true colors, its true beauty, its true essence, and allow it to go as far as it can go. So that's the objective. That's the goal, is to allow the inner child to speak so that you can hear for yourself what it is that you're struggling with. And that inner child holds the key, ultimately, to you living your best life, to you being the strongest, most confident, most inspired version of yourself. And if you can manage to bridge that gap and make that connection again with your authentic self, you'll be unstoppable. Not in the sense that you'll go and, have to make whatever $1 million. It's not about the $1 million. It's about you living the life that you feel accomplished and fulfilled. So if whatever it is that makes you feel accomplished and fulfilled has something to do with a certain amount of money, then so be it. But that's not for everyone. You know, we all have our own unique design of what happiness looks like or feel like. And reconnecting with your authentic self will allow you to get a clearer picture. This is, wow, this is what I'm supposed to be. This is my essence. This is the person that I am. Forget about the expectations. Forget about I'm not good enough and I didn't do quite good enough in third grade. Who cares? You get to write your own stories. It's all very doable. It's a matter of tracing back your steps and understanding how events in your life affected that inner child and the ripple effects that are permeating your life today, right? So once you get to the bottom of that, you will be able to clear the smoke and see the path to being that person that you've always wanted to be, and to live the life feeling the way that you always wanted to feel about yourself. And that's really what it comes down to.